Okay, so I'm bored at work. I have nothing better to do. That's not true. I have like three better things to be doing. Maybe four. Probably more than that. But this is what I'm doing because, I don't know, I have a lot of time to kill and I'm very bored. And so I decided to, well, mostly because there was no YouTube video that I wanted to watch, so I was like, why don't I just make a YouTube video that I would want to watch? But I realized that the YouTube video I want to make is also the YouTube video that I have opportunities to watch. There's like at least three of them that I've scrolled through today that I just don't feel like watching because it would annoy me listening to someone else explain something that I either already know or know more about in the first place. And so the topic of that, of course, is Stargate SG-1. To your surprise, maybe. Do you even know what that is? Probably not. I have no visuals to help you, so I'm going to ramble for however long about basically just the story of Stargate SG-1. I'm going to hit various plot points. I'm going to skim over a lot of other plot points. I'm probably going to forget entire episodes and entire arcs because I'm just doing this on a whim. So, of course, we all know the movie in 1989, 94? 94? I feel like 94 is calling to me. 1994, I think, you can look it up, is when the movie came out with David Spade and Kurt Russell and a bunch of other actors that I don't remember the names of because none of them are relevant. And, you know, there's a Stargate. The Stargate is a ring and it has a bunch of symbols on it, and basically turns out it's kind of like a telephone wormhole transporter deal, which is what David Spade, Daniel Jackson finds out or figures out. He realizes, wait, phones and 7 numbers equals a phone, and somehow that is the same thing. Anyways, so they realize, like, wait, if we do this special combination, we could maybe turn it on. And so they try it and it works, and everybody's like, holy crap. And so they go through it with like a military team because they're like, we don't know what's going to be there. Aliens, we don't know. Apparently, by the way, secret lore happens way later, sort of. They had already turned this on like 40 years prior, and they just kind of skimmed over that. They kind of just like never brought that up. And the one who turned it on and apparently even went through it, she's there. She's just there. She's just an old lady who's like, haha, Daniel, you better figure it out. I'm not gonna help you because I don't know how to do it, even though she already knew how to do it. I think they did some sort of memory wipe thing. I have to be honest, I didn't watch that. I watched the start of it. It was, I don't even think it's canon technically. I don't know, maybe it is. So they go through the Stargate. They show up on what is essentially Egypt, the planet, and they're like, okay, what the heck is this? So they meet some people. Daniel gets married. Yeah, that happens. It's, you know, hey, things move quick in Egypt, the planet. So he gets married. He falls in love with her. Mind you, she's pretty. She's cute. I get it. But, you know, you're a little bit desperate here, Daniel. That's a little bit quick. All right, Kurt Russell's also like dealing with trauma. His son just died. We'll find out more about that. And he's like on the rocks with his wife because, you know, child dies. It's kind of rough. So he's kind of like, he's struggling, but he's not telling people because he's a colonel and he's in charge. Anyways, it turns out there's bad guys that rule this planet, and they show up in a big old flying pyramid ship that lands on another pyramid, which, by the way, Daniel Jackson apparently, he called it. Pyramids land on other pyramids, and it's actually everything is aliens. And to his credit, everything is aliens in Stargate universe. Not the show, but, well, the show, but also like the Stargate cinematic universe. So, anyways, bad guy aliens show up. Technically, we only really see like 3 of them. I don't know. They're like very underpowered, but also overpowered in the movie. There's like way less of them, but they're way stronger. it seems like, and like the weapons are way more powerful, it seems like, in the movie. I mean, movie magic, you know, whatever. TV series has to go in one route or the other. But that's what it sure seems like to me whenever I rewatch it. I'm like, man, these guys are so much stronger than they should be. Like, they should not be winning so hard here. But whatever. They don't really talk about it. It just kind of slowly becomes the truth over the series. So, aliens show up. There's some dudes that have these, like, metal helmet things that, like, turn into jackals? Something? I don't know. Some sort of Egyptian bullshit. Bullcrap. And those guys, they beat up the guys. Anyways, at some point, something happens. They try to start a rebellion because, you know, fight the oppressors. And the Daniel ends up getting, like, shot, but then he ends up getting taken up to the ship because they plot, and then he gets healed in the ghoul sarcophagus. By the way, the bad guys are named ghouls, but I don't know if they talk about that in the show. Like, they must talk about it in the movie. It's been a minute. Anyways, he gets revived. So this marks number 1. I'm gonna tally death number 1 for Daniel, by the way, because I think he does canonically die but is revived. So 1 death for Danny boy. So he dies and then is revived because sarcophagus revives people. It's tech. I don't know. So he gets revived, and then it's Ra is the ghoul. That's his name, is Ra, and he's in like an ancient Egyptian body, but he's like apparently like wanting a new host, and I think that's why he wanted to revive Daniel, because I think he was going to take him as a host or something like that. But then it turns out that actually, like, because we don't know this yet, but apparently the ghouls are actually aliens that are parasites that live inside humans. And so then Ra, like, blah, 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 blah. Apparently we brought a nuke. And so we brought a nuke just as backup, apparently. So O'Neill starts to plan to use the nuke so that they can't get back to Earth, right? Because if we blow up the gate or we bury it or something, then they can't come back to Earth and you know, no harm, no foul. We just, you know, Stargate program is a big rip. So he goes to use a nuke. But then they're like, wait, what if we send the nuke up to the ship? Because they're flying away, but they got these, like, teleport ring deals that are kind of like mini Stargates, but like an elevator, basically. And so they use, you know, it's beam me up, Scotty, but with more rings. So they put the nuke in the ring thing, and then they use the one Jaffa that they actually finally kill, his teleporter wrist thing, to send them the nuke up there. So then the nuke blows up Ra and his whole ship up in the sky. It's a whole big, yay, we won, we killed him. And weirdly enough, and this is only weird for later, and I think I've heard some theories that he's like maybe actually took over an Asgard and then also then took over a human. But honestly, it's just a plot hole. They just didn't know what the ghouls looked like yet. Let's all be honest here. Stop trying to fix things, okay? Ra's body, his like human body, like whipped away because he nuke, and then it showed like a gray alien, kind of. Again, looks like the Asgard. We'll talk about them. Looks like an Asgard. Has like weird eyes. It's strange, and everybody's like, huh? That's not what the ghoul look like in the show. And it's no, they don't. Again, I think it's just a plot hole. The movie came first. They changed some things, okay? It's not that complicated. There are some weird theories that are trying to force some things that I do think are cool, but they don't make sense. Sorry. So, anyways, he doesn't look like a ghoul, but he is a ghoul, but whatever. I think I realized, I think the theory that I actually ended up falling for was that, like, maybe Ra wasn't actually technically a ghoul, but another similar, like, parasitic species. And that's why Ra was, like, different. Because there was a lot of ways that, like, Ra was, like, more ahead of the Gould, and like he was in charge of them and stuff. So there was like so there's that like Raw actually technically wasn't a Gould, but he said he was, and he got away with it. So all the other Goulds would believe him, but he wasn't really a Gould, but basically the same thing. Nevertheless, Raw dies. End of movie. Everybody goes back to Earth except for Daniel. He stays because he's married, and you know what? He kind of likes Egypt, the planet, because he's obsessed with Egypt, and he's kind of really into this chick now. And so he says, I'm going to stick around, and you guys go back to Earth and say that, we blew the gate up, or we blew up the bad guy, and that there's no more threat. I'll bury the gate, and we'll never come back, whatever. End of movie. Everyone's happy, generally good. That's the movie. So, jump to the start of the show, because I don't think there's anything I want to talk about in between the movie and the show. But let's jump to the start of the show. So the start of the show, boom, big mountain, middle of Colorado. Down at the bottom of the mountain, in middle of Colorado, there's a Stargate. It's a big ring, but it's under a tarp. It's kind of put away. But it's also conveniently not put away. Like, it's where it's actively at. It's not really put away. It's not in a box. It's just got a tarp over it. And then casually, there's just this, 4 people playing poker. They're they're airmen. There we go. That's the word, airmen. They're just chilling. I'm going to drink my Code Red made from home. Don't mind me. So there's these airmen. They're just chilling there, playing poker, they're having a time. But clearly probably not supposed to be playing poker, especially not here of all places. But they just think it's a storage room, even though it's definitely not a storage room. They are classic, they just kind of threw stuff in there because they gave up on it. Whatever. So, meanwhile, of course, we're here for plot. It happens, the ring starts to spin, the tarp just gets flown off. The 4 of them are like, what the heck is going on? And kawoosh, the water thing happens. The gate opens up, and in steps some Jaffa with different helmets this time. These ones look like snakes or serpents, because guess what? The new Gould in town is Apophis, which is the serpent god. So he's got a little snake doodad on his head, or on their heads, whatever. So Apophis shows up with his Jaffa, and they murk the 3 male guys, and of course there's a 4th female chick, and so they grab her, and he does a little hypno mind melt thing with his hand device. And they pull her back through the Stargate. Now, common, again, plot hole. I'm going to talk about these random things because I want to, okay? Deal with it. So, they show up, and a lot of people are like, how did they go back through the gate? The gate only goes one way. We talk about this. This is a known fact. We know this for a fact at multiple points in the series. It's like a main plot point sometimes. So, here's the thing. They close the gate and reopen it. It's not that complicated, but then people are like, well, how did they reopen it? It's like, well, there's a few ways they could do that. One, maybe the time frame of when the extra backup guards show up is a little bit longer than we think. Probably. Maybe not. And 2, I think the definitive answer is that there is a little hand manual dialing device thing that you can bring with you if you don't really know if there's a dialing device or not, which seems convenient, to be fair, because the only time we see this existing in Gould technology is literally the last Stargate SG-1 content, official content that we got, which is it Covenant? Is that the name of the movie? Stargate, not Ark of Truth, but the Stargate, I think it's Covenant, something like that. Whatever, the last Stargate TV movie. that one shows Ball having one when he goes back in time to the ship and the gate, and he uses it there. But like, that's also way later, and that's also Ball, who specifically does research on gates and is like really in touch with how the gate system works, and to the point where he almost successfully manufactured his own microcosm gate system and negated the entire rest of the gate system in the entire galaxy. And the only reason that didn't work was because somehow Sam and the one guy, the one doctor, I don't know, his name might come to me later, they figure out how to fix it because it was actually his Avengers virus that got it all screwed up in the first place. Doctor. I'm only gonna think of the name because of Jack yelling every time he's like, that guy. He says his name instead. I don't remember. Anyways, so so the theory is that they have this dialing thing. Alternatively, he has Jaffa. They could have just spun the thing. It was already powered because it's in the system, so it has power. They don't need to power it. It's easy enough that we can just say they redialed out. And you even hear the gate shut down at some point while they're cut away. And then you can also, in an extended edition, apparently, you can hear them redialing, but it's at a faster pace, which makes people think that it's the dialing device and not a manual redial, but whatever. They redial and they leave. So that's the plot hole that a lot of people find, but it's just easy to miss. And again, it probably was a plot hole, but now they've tried to cover things up, a little bit of movie magic. So they grab the girl. They grab the captain, whatever. I don't know what her name is. I don't even know if we know I'm sure we know what her name is, but I don't remember what it is. Nobody does. It does not matter. So they take her, and so this instigates, hey, the gate is working again. So obviously Daniel didn't really bury the gate, did he? Because they came from the Stargate, which goes to the Egypt planet, right? Well, guess what? He didn't. Well, he did unbury the Stargate. Anyways, they get in contact with Daniel. Daniel actually tells them, hey, actually, I think the gate goes to other planets too, not just this one. And it's, by the way, the Egypt planet's Abydos, just so you know. So, not just Abydos and Earth, but other planets as well. So we killed Ra, who was in charge of Abydos and Earth at one point. But there's other bad guys out there too, and that's who showed up to Earth to, kidnap a woman. And so, because one person was kidnapped, don't leave one man behind. And also, hey, more planets, more pillaging, America. So they decide to reopen the gate and try to go somewhere. But actually, no. Before all that happens, while they're on Abydos, the Apophis shows up to Abydos to do the same thing, to basically kidnap women, because he's kidnapping everybody, to be fair, but he's kind of looking for a chick. He's trying to find a wife. So he goes, and this is how you court people, of course. We all know. You go to another planet and steal their women and children. So he goes to Abydos and he picks up some people, including Daniel's wife and Daniel's brother-in-law / O'Neill's spiritually adopted son from the first time they went there. Even though they're there for days, maybe a couple weeks. But apparently Skara becomes basically O'Neill's child, which is the main driving force of his storyline for the next 5 seasons, basically. Anyways, so they steal Skara and Share. Share is Daniel's wife. And so then Daniel's like, we gotta go save my wife. We gotta go save Skara. And O'Neill's, of course, like, yeah, we gotta go save them. And the American Air Force is like, I don't know if we should do this. And they're like, we should do this. And then, blah, blah, blah. They realized one of the airmen that was on Abydos before he got all hit and shot, he saw them redial, or after he got shot, he saw them redial back. So he remembered the address. He memorized the phone number. Thank goodness we're good at memorizing 7-digit numbers, because, you know, the area code is a whole other thing. So he memorized the 7-digit code, and they got it, and then they're like, all right, let's go rescue Daniel's wife, my adoptive kid, and that one airman, maybe, although we kind of assume she's dead, but she's not. Anyways, so they go to this other planet. Turns out this planet is called Chulak, which is basically Apophysis is like home base, essentially Abydos, but for Apophis. But also, it's basically just Canada-esque forest, because 90% of their shoots were done in Canada. So it's basically just like a northern forest kind of deal. So that's like the whole planet. So they go to the planet, they set up a little bit of shop, there's a couple of teams. Oh, by the way, now our like squad is O'Neill. So Kurt Russell's character, who's now played by Richard Dean Anderson, the GOAT. And then there's also Daniel Jackson, who's not played by David Spade anymore, and it's now Michael Shanks. Yeah. And then we also have a third main character who has the most cringy and ridiculous opening line of all time, which they do make fun of later in the show, but it is something. Is Colonel, or not at the time, Captain Samantha Carter, played by Amanda Tapping, and she's like a Air Force like science nerd, but also like she's an Air Force captain, so like she is a military person, but is also like a giga nerd. She's also a doctor. She has a doctorate. They kind of don't talk about that a lot after the first season or two, but they do bring it up a couple times where they're like, doctor, actually call me captain, kind of thing. And it's like, well, I mean, you're talking to other scientists, so like you might as well be called doctor, because you do want them to recognize that you're smarter than them. Anyways, but Daniel's also a doctor, but of archaeology, so it doesn't really matter. Anyways, so, but he also does a lot of doctor-y things, which is funny, because I think they think that he's a doctor because he's a doctorate, but like not the same at all. But he is a midwife at least twice, which is weird that it happened more than once. So he so that's the trio, and then there's like other people, some of whom are reoccurring characters from the movie. A couple of them, I don't remember all of them, but Major, he doesn't last long, but it's Major something, that it will come to mind at some point, maybe. He's important soon, but he shows up, or he's around, and then there's some other people that are around that are, again, recurring characters in the movie. I don't think any of the actors are the same, but the characters are. So there may be like one or two actors that stayed, that actually came from the movie to the show, but there's not many. Most of them are different. Anyways, so they're on the planet. They run around. The main squad get captured eventually, and then they get thrown into big like slave jail, where they're basically just keeping all of the like potential husbands and wives that they're like courting right now, for Apophis and a bunch of other Goulds, as we find out. And also, meanwhile, Apophis has been testing out the humans for his wife Gould, which is, by the way, if you watch the uncut version, is a very descriptive scene, and there's way more there than you expect in terms of nudity, so heads up. We did not know that when I was 5 or 6 as a family watching the DVD version. Hand over my face happened real fast. None of the rest of the show has nudity, just that one part. At least not like visible nudity, but like, anyways, we see Daniel Jackson's butt later, but it's kind of more funny than anything. So yeah, so watch out for that. Some online, like Amazon, I think has the cut version, but MGM has the uncut version. So just watch out for that. In the pilot, it's the pilot episode is where you want to be careful. Okay, just giving people a fair warning. Anyways, apparently, the Gould didn't like the captain that they kidnapped from the beginning, so they kill her, and then but she did like Shara because, plot. So Shara is now a Gould and is actually Apophis's wife, which is, she's already married. This is wrong. You can't marry her. She's Daniel's wife. That's not okay. That's what I had a problem with as a kid. And now I'm like, oh, you can't take away someone's human agency like that. That's horrific. And now I understand the show a little bit better. So, age maturity, it's great. So, Apophis now has Shara as his wife. Meanwhile, he has that. He found his wife, so he's done with this whole campaign to find a wife. So he says, kill all the slaves. We don't need these people. And so he tells his guards to kill them, and his lead guard is named Teal'c, and he's the first prime. It's like kind of like, your number one man. And he's just like a seasoned veteran, basically. So Teal'c is like, all right, I'll do your job. But meanwhile, O'Neill's just like, you gotta let us go. We can help these people. We can save these people. This is wrong. And some reason, Teal'c's like, okay. So he tosses a weapon over to O'Neill, and then they kill the rest of the guards, and then they blow a hole in the wall with the staff weapon. And this wall is like, I don't know. It's probably like 5 feet thick, okay? And it's like stone. So he blows a hole in the wall with the staff weapon, which is not a feat the staff weapon typically is capable of for the entirety of the show. Even in the movie, that seemed like it would have taken a few shots at least. I think in the pilot, it's like maybe a couple shots, if I'm remembering wrong, but I think it's just one. It just blows a big old hole in the wall, and every time I'm just like, man, they did not. The power scaling is all over the place here. So, anyways, they get through the wall. Everybody starts leaving. They run away. They're running back to the gate. And they pretty much all get to the gate. They all go. Meanwhile, continuing the story a little bit, remember that major guy I couldn't remember the name of? I still don't remember his name, and it's gonna kill me. Kowalski. It's Kowalski. I told you I'd get there. So it's Kowalski. So Major Kowalski, they're all helping all the people, the refugees, get through the gate because, we're America and we take care of our refugees, right? In the year of our Lord 2025. So he's helping all the refugees get to the gate because, they're prisoners and they were about to be murdered for no reason. So they save them. Meanwhile, apparently, there was like a dead Jaffa or something nearby, because of course they're fighting while they're doing this. And Kowalski, before he gets through the gate, a little parasite snaky dude died, which is what the Goulds are. They're snakes, okay? They're not really snakes. They're kind of more like eels. I don't know if there's a better way to put it. But yeah, sharp, fangy teeth at the end, like 4 of them, and they kind of open in like this, and it's just like a big, whole yucky tadpole, snaky deal. Gross, disgusting, absolutely like, ugh, chills. It's truly disgusting, and they it like jumps in his ear. I think. Does that one jump in his ear, or does it jump in his neck? I think it jumps in his ear. They like going for holes because they leave a mark where they enter your body, of course, because these things aren't small, by the way. They're like large. they're frighteningly large. So it goes in his ear or something, and it's all like, and his eyes like, because the eyes shine, by the way, when they have Gould. The Gould can make the eyes glow. It's like a whole thing, but they don't have to glow. They just glow sometimes, and sometimes it's like on purpose to intimidate people. Sometimes it's just like when they first become in charge, they take over, and then sometimes they just do it kind of like when they're upset. And so it's like sometimes the trick of getting a Goa'uld to reveal themselves is just to like piss the Goa'uld off, and then the Goa'uld like ooh flashes the eyes, and it's like, you could have just stayed hidden, dude. We don't know. We didn't know until you did that. The Goa'uld aren't always smart. Most of the time they're not. So the Goa'uld gets in charge of Kowalski, but we don't know that. And Kowalski comes through the gate, and the pilot episode, which is essentially a movie in and of itself. Alright. Oh, by the way, Teal'c came with everybody because he's a traitor now, so of course they were going to kill him if he stayed. But so now Teal'c's here. So end of the pilot. Here's the squad. The general in charge of the base is General Hammond. He's the OG. He's cool. Hammond of Texas. We'll get to that. And we have O'Neill, Carter, Colonel O'Neill, Captain Samantha Carter, Daniel Jackson, and Teal'c. All right. This is the squad. Major Kowalski's also around. He also, we might think, is a big player. But remember, he's got a Goa'uld in his head. So, episode 2. Kowalski has a Goa'uld in his head. That's basically what the episode title should be, and that basically is the entire plot of the whole episode. Because at some point he blacks out, he like kills a guy, but they don't just like immediately imprison him. They're like, oh, he's got a Goa'uld in his head. They kind of figure it out at some point, and they try to get the Goa'uld out, but then the Goa'uld like goes into his brain or something, and then so they don't really get the Goa'uld out. They think they do. They get like his husk. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It sets up a lot of like how the Goa'uld actually take over somebody, but they don't really go into it again in terms of like like Earth science ability to handle things. They basically just end up resolving that like, hey, it is highly improbable for an Earth doctor to surgically remove the Goa'uld without the Goa'uld killing the host. Because it like attaches to the brainstem and stuff, and like it would just like kill you. And there's like a lot of ways that like there's like micro things that they connect with that like we can't really sever simultaneously. And so if we start to sever any of it, the Goa'uld can basically purposefully kill the host, just to be a dick. So that's kind of the problem. Anyways, they think they can get the Goa'uld out, but they don't. They just can't get the Goa'uld out. And so they think they do it, and the Goa'uld's actually tricking everybody. And so he's still in charge of Kowalski. Him and Jack have a moment. It's kind of sad, kind of happy, kind of funny, because they're like besties. And then eventually later, turns out the Goa'uld really is in charge. The Goa'uld kind of fights through people. Meanwhile, by the way, throughout this episode, they're like super suspicious of Teal'c, and they're like, oh, we're gonna go study you like a specimen, and like we don't know if we can trust you. And then everybody's like, he literally just threw away his entire life to save us. He was like the guy. Why would he do that if he wasn't cool? But you know, plot. So anyways, the end of the episode, basically Kowalski and Teal'c are fighting in the gate room, and the gate turns on, and then Teal'c has to like, he's like fighting Kowalski, and Kowalski's like strong because the Goa'uld makes you stronger, and Teal'c's also strong because he has a Goa'uld in his belly because he's a Jaffa. So the Jaffa are basically Goa'uld incubators. They have like a whole X on their stomach, and it's a pouch, kind of like a kangaroo, but weirder and grosser. And the little snake sits in there just kind of vibing, and it basically makes the Jaffa stronger. It acts as their immune system. It replaces their immune system, so they actually lose their immune system. Every Jaffa has AIDS, and the Goa'uld is basically just the replacement for the immune system for reasons. And so Teal'c's really strong too, but like a Goa'uld host is stronger than a Jaffa typically, but like comparable. It's like slightly stronger to have the snake in the head versus the belly, but not a ton, but slightly. So anyways, but also like Teal'c's like a seasoned warrior and trains all the time. Most of the Goa'uld hosts are like, you know, kings basically and queens, so like They're not really fighters. Some of them are. Again, slightly stronger, typically. Anyways, Teal'c's like fighting him, and he's like holding him, and he's like holding Kowalski's head in the gate, and then they shut the gate off, and because his head is partially in the gate, it slices his head, and basically cuts out the Gould, but also cuts out part of Kowalski's head. So Kowalski dies alongside the Gould. But the threat's gone. The Gould doesn't leave, doesn't steal all the info Kowalski knew. And we know that Teal'c is trustworthy. Probably. Not that they don't bring it up every single season, anytime they ever have to question anything that goes on at Stargate Command. So, that's episode 2. Episode 3 is feminism. And basically they go to a planet where they're like Mongols. Not like in a mean way, but like Mongolia, Attila the Hun kind of time frame people. But they're also like, hey, we kind of are repressed in terms of how we treat our women. And then they're like, but maybe we won't be if we get rid of some of the patriarchy. So they kind of do that throughout this movie. And it's just a great chance to see Carter being like, see, I'm a fighter and I'm a real woman, which is a great point. It's just cheesy, as is a lot of plot in the first season, to be frank. But basically that's what happens. She fights the bad guy in a one-on-one hand-to-hand knife combat. He has like a big knife. She has a little knife. It's a whole thing. Something about a dowry, something about buying women and selling women and like objectifying them. Semi-important thing. They also have these like cool plants that works as medicine that they decide to start trading with the SGC. So we get cool medicine from them now. Just fun fact. Part of the plot of the show, throughout the show, is that like we need to be getting things from these planets that we're going to, because we're spending billions and trillions of dollars to run this facility in secret. And so we need to be like getting stuff from these other planets to make it worthwhile. So that's like one of the positive things we get pretty early on. They talk about it a lot earlier, kind of on the down low. If you don't pay attention, you don't realize it. But like, we're slowly building a lot of like relationships and stuff with the different planets that like later sometimes matters, sometimes just doesn't. And it's actually funny, if you pay attention, the show writers are really good about actually calling back properly to like, oh, we have these things because we have this relationship with this planet from that episode in that season 4 seasons ago, that like you think is a throwaway episode is just like, oh, it's just an episode. It's like, no, actually, like that is the basis of why we can do this thing now later. One thing that always gets me is the Fifth Man episode, which is where they go to a planet. Apparently this alien tricks the 4 members of the team into thinking that he's part of the team and that he's the 5th member of the team, but he's really an alien. He gets stuck with Jack and they have to fight their way back. Blah, 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 blah. Turns out this guy's really an alien. The whole team didn't realize it, but he's got special, like, drugs that makes people, it's like a fungus or something, it's kind of funky, that makes people think that whatever he wants them to think. And it becomes totally like legit to them and reasonable, and they just cannot see the truth, even though he is an alien. He is physically an alien, like very alien. And then they look at him and they see just like a dude, like just like a classic, like, you know, American black dude as part of the team. And so that's what they think. But he's not. He's an alien. He's funky. And they take that episode, kind of a random throwaway episode, and then they bring it back later in the next season, and they come up with this whole drug plot, not drug plot, but a drug that they use in the plot of Daniel going to the Gould UN meeting, and he uses it to trick like people into thinking that he's like a slave there instead of being, you know, Daniel. So that's really far away from where we're at. Anyways, yeah, so Carter just proved that she's a strong woman, independent woman who don't need no man. And so now, what the heck is the next episode? I don't even remember what the next episode is. Let me go back. All right, so season 1, Carter is a real woman. And, I don't know, maybe the Nox? Is the Nox soon? The Nox happens. The Nox is a fairly important plot point. So we meet the Nox, or we hear about the Nox. So basically, Teal'c is asked, hey, do you know of any, like, cool tech that could help us fight the Goa'uld? And he's like, well, there's these things called the Nox, and there's this, like, animal, there's this bug that turns invisible, and we don't know how, and even, like, Goa'ulds don't know how, and, like, Apophis has been trying to hunt this thing for forever. So let's go to this planet and see if we can find it, figure it out. Maybe it helps us. So they go to this planet. It's forest, again, Canada, and they see the bugs. They find the bugs, but the bugs turn invisible and they disappear, and they can't shoot the bug. They can't. They weren't trying to kill the bug. They were just trying to, like, trank it so that they could, like, study it and learn about it. Whereas, you know, Goa'uld, they're just trying to kill them. So they try to find the bug. They can't get it because it turns invisible and flies away. And they're like, holy crap, how's it do that? And Teal'c's like, yeah, I don't know. We don't know. That's the whole point. Anyways, it turns out, actually, fun fact, Apophis is there too. He's on a hunt because he's hunting. And so he also he's also trying to find the bugs. But they're hiding from them because SG-1's like, wait, we don't really want to fight Apophis. But then they're like, actually, light bulb, what if we just murk him right now? So they try to fight Apophis, and it does not go well because Apophis is apparently goated with the sauce. So Apophis does have a squad too. There's a couple dudes with him. But anyway, so they're fighting. They killed the Jafar, or one of the Jafar or something. They're the season 1 through 2, 3, like 1 through 3, the Earth's fighters are kind of crappy, not gonna lie. The aim is questionable. Post that, Jafar get destroyed. Anyways, trust me, you'll notice. It's crazy. So you can tell they changed, like story, not story writers, but like publishers. They changed networks at some point, and I think it's at season 4. They like switched season 4 or 5, and it's noticeable. It's very funny. So yeah, Apophis murks them. Literally, they all die except for Teal'c. I think Teal'c gets to run away or something. Someone runs away. I think it's Teal'c. Teal'c runs away. Or no, he doesn't run away, but he gets turned invisible, and everybody else gets turned invisible, even after they get shot. But meanwhile, while they're fighting Apophis, he turns on, like, a shield that goes around him, like a big circle, and basically just blocks bullets and blocks, like, the staff weapon fire, and just keeps them safe. And they're all like, this is hacks, this is BS, what the heck? So it doesn't work out. Anyways, they all get turned invisible, like the bugs. What? How? Mysterious. And so it turns out that, actually, joke's on you, the bugs, they don't have any special powers. They're just big, scary, creepy looking bugs. The things that have the powers are the Nox, which are basically like pacifist, extremist pacifist plant people. They're people in funny little garb, and they just got leaves all over them. They look like they're part plant, part person, kind of. They're the Nox. They're kind of funny. And they keep calling... by the way, everybody's fine now. They're healed. Apparently the Nox can do that, by the way. They also take the Jafar that they shot, and they healed him, which is a whole thing. That proves to bite them in the butt a little bit. Anyways, so they keep calling all the Earth people young. And it's like, they don't mean it derogatorily, but sometimes they do mean it derogatorily. And that's a plot point. And they apparently, because the Nox are not only legitimately, like, individually old, but it's just they genuinely view the, like, I keep saying like Americans, the Earthling human race is a young species, implying that the Nox are an older species, which is kind of crazy, but is true. That is a fact that we come to learn much later. The Nox are very old as a species and a civilization, although they don't seem to be widespread. They seem to be very, very limited and perhaps only to that planet to be real. Although it kind of is implied that maybe they have other colonies, but they don't talk about it, and it never comes up, and we only really meet them sort of when we talk about Tolan later, because they interact with the Tolan a lot more, because the Tolan are a little bit more advanced, and so they feel like they can kind of talk on the same wavelength a little bit more, which just furthers the conversation about how how Earthlings are young and impetuous and blah 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 or whatever. Anyways, they're pacifists, so they're too much so. So anyways, blah 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 blah. The youngest Nox, because it's like a family. It's like a mom, a dad, a grandpa, and a son, and is basically the vibe. Even though it's not really confirmed that's the case, but that's what you think. And so they the younger one is kind of being influenced by Jack a bit, because Jack kind of looks at him like a kid and he treats him like it, and the kid is acting like a kid. But the like dad of the Nox is like, hey, stop trying to influence the kid. He's still young and learning, and he's learning from you, and we don't agree with you, and you're gonna get him hurt. And Jack's like, I think that you're being a jerk, and you need to help people and like deal with this in a better way. You need to help us deal with these people. You don't have to do a thing. We can do the killing. You just help us hide us or something. And the dude's like, look, man, we don't want to be a party of this. We protect ourselves well enough. We can handle ourselves. And Jack's like, you can't handle yourselves. You don't understand how bad the Goa'uld are. The Goa'uld are so scary. And the Nox dude's just like, look, you little impetuous child. I am literally 15 times your age or something. And we could deal with the Goa'uld if we need to. Shut up. But O'Neill doesn't get it yet. Really, even after. Anyways. And so, turns out the little kid did kind of listen to O'Neill a little bit, but not in so much of a way as like he thinks that the Goa'uld are bad, but so much as like he's just curious about them, and he goes to talk to the Goa'uld, and Apophis is like, and shoots him. And so then they go to heal the kid, and apparently the Nox can't actually hide themselves while they're doing their healing ritual, which is a bit of a problem because the Goa'uld find them and try to fight them. But meanwhile, I guess the Earth people, SG-1's got to save them. So SG-1 fights Apophis and the dudes, and they kill the Jaffa, I think, or one of them. And Apophis has shield still, and OP. But O'Neill's like, did you notice something earlier? When they tossed him the staff weapon, he had his shield up, but he was able to catch it. So the shield doesn't block everything. It just must block things that are a danger to him. So it maybe is a certain like velocity or something. Because O'Neill is smart, even though he acts dumb. A plot point. So he's like, what if instead of shooting him, I throw a knife at him? Which, guess what? Wait, is it the knife or is it the trank dart? I think it's a trank dart. He shoots a trank dart or something at him, and it works. Something works. No, it was gonna work. And then Apophis goes invisible, and the Nox show up, and they're like, no fighting on our planet. And O'Neill's like, God. He throws a fit because he's like, we could have caught him, we could have killed him, something like that. But they're like, nah, child, go away. Anyways, so O'Neill does beat the thing later with not Hathor, Horus. Yeah, I think it's Horus. Anyways, he chucks a knife and it hits Horus's hand device right through the hand. It's right through the hand. But it worked. It worked out well. Anyways, so the Nox like send the Goa'uld away or something, and then before the Earthlings leave, the Nox reveal their like colony, which is like this giant city in the sky. That's like maybe a spaceship, probably a spaceship, but it's kind of vague. They don't talk about it. It's just they just reveal this like giant city, like clearly advanced culture up there, and then the Earthlings go like, oh, you guys aren't just like a weird plant forest people, are you? And they're like, no, we're not. And they're like, oh. And then they leave, and that's the Knox. Important season 1 episodes. Oh, also the Hathor episode. That happens at some point. It might be episode 4. It might be episode 8. I don't know. Anyways, the Hathor episode is a season 1 episode. So, Hathor. They are showing these like archaeologists opening a Mayan pyramid, but it has an Egyptian sarcophagus, which is a Gould sarcophagus, for those of you who remember Raw. And so the Gould sarcophagus, of course, has Hathor in it, because nobody ever found Hathor's sarcophagus or anything in actual ancient history. Anyways, apparently it's in the Mayan one, because all the pyramids are actually Gould pyramids. That's why there's pyramids all over the planet. So, Hathor was in this thing, and these 2 archaeologists kind of release her, and she's just like, and that's like a whole thing. And then later on, she just shows up to the SGC because she can like feel the naquadah in the gate or something. I don't know. I think later they kind of like say that she had some sort of device, but she also apparently just could like smell it or like know where it was, because there's naquadah in the gate, which is a material. It's like a metal. And also there's naquadah in Goulds, and that's like what they're like. They have like a marker of like what people have a Gould in them, is whether or not there's like naquadah in their blood. And so there's like some sort of connection there, even though the gates were not made by Goulds, they're just used by them. But at this point in the show, they're still kind of like saying that the Goulds did make the gates, even though we know for a fact they did not later on. It's a whole weird thing. I think they basically just say that like the Gould became so obsessed with them, or because the Gould grew up on like planets that were rich in naquadah, and I think that's why there's like that connection there, even though it's not because they make the gates. The gates just happen to be made out of naquadah. Anyways, because it's a good it's good for making stuff, especially advanced tech, for reasons. It's a highly volatile like metal or something. So, yeah, so they anyways, Hathor seduces all the men because she's like the goddess of fertility or something. She temporarily makes Jack a Jaffa, which is weird. Everybody's grossed, Jack especially. They still have the sarcophagus though, because they found it, and so they heal Jack in the sarcophagus at some point, and then the sarcophagus also gets shot and explodes because plot. Is this season 2? Because this is after they have the Zats, right? Which only comes up in season 1, at the end of season 1. Is Hathor a season 2 episode? I think it is, because I think they have Zats. Because I think they zat the thing. Or maybe they shoot it, I don't know. No, she hand devices the thing. That's right. She hand devices the thing. Anyways, so she's trying to breed more Gould. And you know how she does that? She has fun time with Daniel. Oh, by the way, we need to tally Daniel death. He has 2 now because he died in the Knox episode. He doesn't die in this episode. It just made me think about it. So Daniel has, because there's a second tally which we should have, which is how many times Daniel cheats on his wife Sharae. So this is time number 1 that I can remember. He cheats on Sharae with Hathor. Mind you, she drugs him, but like he's kind of into it before she drugs him. Let's be honest. Every guy in the whole facility is into it. She is very much trying to make everybody sleep with her. She even tries the women at one point, and it just doesn't fly, which I think is funny, but also, well, they kind of explain it as like because she uses like a pheromone thing, but like, I don't know, nowadays they would have just been like, yeah, no, some of the chicks are down too. But you know, we have more women empowering moments. Again, cheesy. They use the word libidinous, which is crazy because I sure didn't know what that word meant and had never heard it before, and have yet to hear it in any other context ever since. Thank you, Dr. Cheryl Rothery, which I think is the actress's name. Anyways, Dr. Fraser is the character's name. Anyways, so they beat up all the guys because they're all henchmen, and then they try to get Hathor, but then she kind of not so secretly turns invisible and walks out of the room, and then eventually goes through the gate to somewhere. Meanwhile, they're all relieved of their infatuation because she only can maintain it if she's in proximity, apparently, which is kind of a weird plot device because the pheromones I feel like would just need time to wear off, but it seems to be instant, which is strange. You would think it would take a little longer, but anyways, yeah, that's Hathor. So Hathor's not dead; she's out there somewhere. Other important season 1 things is the Tantalus episode in this season. I believe it is. So turns out, like I said, they did turn on the gate like 30 years ago in like 1950 something or 1960 something, like 30, 40 years prior to the series, and they sent a dude through, and it turns out to be the one matriarch, the one old lady, that I can't remember the name of. Her like boyfriend went through the gate, and he never came back, and they just assumed he died. But apparently, he didn't. He was on another planet, and we have now since found said planet. And so he's there. He's old now, and he's kind of crazy, but like he sort of maintained his non-craziness because he's not a dumb guy, and he pulled it off. He's surviving. He is naked when we meet him, which is weird, and they're all kind of like awkward about it. And then he remembers like, oh yeah, that's right, I'm naked. I have been alone for 30 years. And he goes, sorry. And they're like, just here's some pants. And so he shows them around because he's like, this place is actually really cool, but also is like over a ledge of like, it's about to fall into the ocean, and it's always a storm, just always, all the time. So anyways, basically the whole plot of the thing is that this place has this like ancient knowledge and like information about these 4 ancient races that came together and made a like summit that was like, they're super cool and everything. Basically, we later find out that these 4 races are 1, the Nox. Hey, we learn about them. 2, the Asgard. We'll learn more about them later, and I've mentioned them. 3, the Ancients. They're very important. Very important. But we don't know anything about them yet. This is the first time we know about them. 4th is the Furlings. We know nothing more about them. There's one more episode that talks about them, sort of. It's just a joke. It's not a joke, but it is now, of the like, oh, we never learned about the Furlings, and it was because they never really intended on teaching us about the Furlings and including any storylines with them, because they could never come up with any idea that they liked about them, I think is my understanding, and so they just never did anything with them. And then the one episode later was literally done just because people were asking so much about it, and then they're just like, here's a little tidbit. And then they just never got to talk more about it. We never find anything more about the Furlings. Although people genuinely think that they are like Ewoks because Furlings is the name, even though it's canonical that they're not. And it's some weird because they were going to make an MMO game about Stargate, but that never really happened. But apparently there was the plot of that was supposed to be about the Furlings, and apparently the Furlings were supposed to be like the original Goulds, and like have created the Goulds or something, which is why people think that Ra was actually maybe a Furling and not a Gould. Very, very fringe stuff you only find on YouTube. Anyways, so those are the 4 races of the like ancient summit covenant thing. This place is clearly like really old, by the way. So, because it's like, this is like thousands or millions of years of deterioration have caused this place to now be on the edge of a like horrible ocean. Anyways, the place is falling apart. the DHD device, which helps them go back home, redial the gate, breaks or is broken. And so they try to fix it, kind of can't get power, and basically they end up realizing that they can make power hit the gate by having lightning from the storm strike something. They get the gate powered, they all get through. Daniel wants to stay because he thinks this place is super cool, and he thinks that it basically could teach him about the meaning of the universe. And everybody else is like, it doesn't matter if you learn about the meaning of the universe if there's nobody you can share it with. And he goes like, yeah, you're right. And so they go back through, and they all get back home. And old man guy, I can't remember his name, and old woman girl, that I also can't remember her name, they are together again, and it's a happy ending for them. Yay. Edgar is his name or something? Esther? No. Edwin? Something like that is his name. Something like that. Edward? Is it just Edward? Something. Ed something. Somewhere in there. Anyways. Season one. What other important things happened in season one? Probably so many things that I'm just like completely blanking. Eventually, near the end of season one, Daniel, they go to this planet that it feels like an ancient museum or like storage facility, and Daniel touches this weird like mirror thing, and then he gets like zapped back onto his butt, and then he like gets up, and apparently Jack had already been telling him like, hey, we gotta go because Teal read something and there's like radiation or something, we gotta get out of here. So we're leaving, and we're gonna leave with or without you, because you can dial home on your own if you are gonna take too long. Very weird. Never happens ever. Like, O'Neill was just fed up with Daniel that day, or I guess, or I don't know. He was a little mad at him for some reason. It seemed excessive. Daniel was even like, nah, you're not gonna leave without me, blah, blah, whatever. Anyways, Daniel wakes up and is like, oh crap, I must have like passed out. They must have left, huh? They must have gone home without me. So he goes to dial home the gate. He goes home, and then he shows up, and like everybody in the gate room's like, who the heck are you? And they're got their guns pointed at him, and he's like, I'm from SG-1. What the heck is going on? This doesn't seem right. Something's off. They don't know who he is, and they think they're confused. Turns out he is in a different alternate reality. Not to mention, that's a whole other thing. He's in an alternate reality. I'm just trying to realize I'm trying to think if I forgot any other important episodes. And he's in an alternate reality, and this alternate reality is basically like a month in the future from his original time, and they are being attacked by the Goa'uld. But Apophis has showed up with a couple motherships, and he's like wreaking havoc on the planet, or is about to. I think he is. I think he just is. And they're like screwed. And so Daniel's learning about all the things that are happening. The base is getting under attack because the Puffs tried to take over the gate room. They found out that the Goa'uld like to dial the gate to keep them from being able to dial out, but they can only keep the gate open for 38 minutes at a time. And then that gave Earth enough time to be able to redial in the intermission, to try to dial out and get an outward gate. And so Daniel got them to dial him out to the planet that he just came from with the mirror, and then he tapped the mirror again. He ended up back in his own time. Apparently everybody was like, where the heck were you? We've been trying to find you. And he's like, I gotta go home, or the Goa'uld are coming. He becomes he basically just like, the Goa'uld are coming. And so he has to figure out a way to stop the Goa'uld. Anyways, that leads into the season finale, which is Apophis is coming. And so they kind of figure this out. They do this whole like recap episode that's simultaneously like an audit of the Stargate program, and is basically like the one senator. Is it Kinsey? Is it Kinsey yet? Are we talking about Kinsey yet? I think it's Senator Kinsey, but it's Colonel Mayborn is the old guy who's like heading it up, but it's really like actually the politicians behind the scenes, which is actually apparently in a monopoly oligarchy group that's in charge of everything and behind the scenes, which we find out like 7 seasons later. Basically it's as corrupt as our current government, and But at least a little bit more like behind the scenes. Like they don't make it quite so obvious. Anyways, so they are blah 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 blah. Yeah, so they do this whole recap episode, and in the midst of the recap episode, basically they're shutting down the SGC because it costs too much money, and they're not finding enough stuff, they're not getting enough out of it, and it's too much of a threat, it's too much of a problem, and they're like, if we just shut down now, then maybe we won't incur the wrath of any more of the ghoul, then we can just move on. And it's like, dumb, no, that won't happen, but okay, fine. Did we meet the Tolan yet? I'm going to assume that's season 2. I feel like there's a lot of missing in season 1. Maybe I need to pull up the season list, just to be sure. But anyways, so the whole plot point is that they're shutting down the SGC. Meanwhile, SG-1's like, but we need to do this mission. We got to stop Apophis. He's coming. And they're like, no, he's not. And they're like, yeah, he's coming. He's gonna be here. He's gonna kill us. And it's like, no. And they're like, yeah, it's gonna happen. So basically, oh yeah. So an important episode. We're gonna backtrack. We're coming back to this. Broker Divide. It's an episode where basically they meet a planet where some of the people are like cavemen, some of the people are like Trojan horse, not Trojan, but like kind of like ancient Greek kind of dealio. It's not quite Greek. It's like, I forget the people. Anyways, it's a time frame that Daniel's really obsessed with because he's like, we don't have like any information on this like time frame, but we know it exists, but we don't know like anything. It's like Babylonian or something. Anyways, but they're all white, which is funny. So they, anyways, apparently the caveman thing is a disease that's contagious, and the whole SGC basically gets it. And then they realize that it's like, they realize how to cure it because some of them are immune to it, and they figure out how to be immune to it, and then they go cure everybody, and basically they become friends with these people. That's it. It's important later because they come up later sometimes. There's the episode where Carter's ex-fiance becomes self-obsessed and is a narcissist and tries to kill everybody, and then he dies anyway. There's the episode where O'Neill basically gets copied by a crystal, and the crystal makes a copy of O'Neill, and he basically just is obsessed with like his son, but apparently O'Neill's son died because O'Neill's son accidentally killed himself with O'Neill's gun, which is really tough, and also is very explains why O'Neill is the way he is, and why they got divorced. We also meet O'Neill's ex-wife in that storyline. Then the Knox. Then it's the episode where O'Neill sleeps with somebody. Also happens a lot. And it basically is given an STD that makes him age really fast. And this is like a whole planet where basically a Gould set up an experiment where he accelerated the human like evolution by expediting their lifespan like really fast. I mean like a full life in like a week. Like crazy fast. They like literally one night they grew up like 7 years. It's like crazy. Anyways, that's a whole episode. O'Neill talks about that one a lot because he did kind of marry a chick, and she is basically just a really like hot 30-year-old that stays 30 because they figure out how to turn off the aging thing. And so O'Neill always talks about going back and retiring there, which is a little bit of a joke, but like also he means it. Thor's hammer's in this season. See, there's so many things about season 1 that you can't skip season 1, man. You can't forget about season 1. Oh my goodness, there's so many things. We do meet the Tolan here. I knew we met the Tolan here, and the Tin Man. See, there's so many things about season 1. I swear to God. All right, so. Important things. All right, Thor's hammer. They go to a planet with the thing called Thor's hammer. They think it's a thing to fight the Gould. It kind of is. It shows up and scans them, but it doesn't like Teal'c for some reason. Jack tries to push Teal'c out of the way, because it starts like hurting Teal'c, and it teleports both of them. But everybody else doesn't know what happens because all the people that live on the planet think that basically they're dead, but like they're not. Apparently they're in this like Gould prison, that basically if you Gould steps through the gate, this thing teleports them there. This is all made by the Asgard, hence Thor. Anyways, in this prison, there's this thing called an Unas, which is like this like demon lizard demon monster thing, that apparently is also a Gould, and apparently was originally, these monsters were like the original hosts of the Gould because they shared a planet where the Gould grew up. And so Teal'c and O'Neill kill this thing, or they think they kill it, and then it actually has a really strong regeneration ability aside from the Gould regenerative ability, which is crazy. So it's like doubly regenerative, which is really powerful. Plus, again, it's just like a giant monster thing, so it's kind of scary. And so they do kill it, and then they sort of kill it, and then there's this like thing that's the actual Thor's hammer, which is this like energy gate that if you step through it will save the human but kill the Gould. And so the problem is that, you know, O'Neill can walk through lickety split, and any SG-1 member can go in and out easy as well. But Unas couldn't because it would kill the Gould, and the Gould would probably just kill the Unas as well. The problem is for Teal'c, he has a Gould in him, and he can't let it die because it's his immune system. So if the Gould in his stomach dies, Teal'c's kind of screwed, so that he can't leave the prison. So they decide to blow up the gateway, which they can do from the outside. But of course, like all the humans, why would they do that? Because it keeps them safe from Gould. But then the SG-1's like, oh no, hopefully the Gould just have already marked this planet off because they know this is here, so why would they risk it? So it's kind of just like an empty bluff, which is not the only thing that's a bluff that they kind of stick with. Bluffing works out really well in this show for some reason. Anyways, that's Thor's hammer. Important for later. Most of the things in season 1 are important for later. And then there's the episode where we go back about for Teal'c's son, because Teal'c's son's supposed to get a Gould implanted in him. It happens anyway, but we milk Teal'c's son, which is Ryak, his wife Drayak, and his master / dad, which is Master Braytak. And Braytak is a badass. He's really cool. We all love him. He's the best. May Braytak never die. And yeah, he's really cool. Then we meet him. They try to stop Ryak from getting a Gould in his belly, but then they kind of just have to do it anyway. And simultaneously, meanwhile, B-plot, Daniel and Carter kill a bunch of infant Goulds, which doesn't really matter too much, but like, grand scheme of things, it kind of matters. There's this weird one where they find out about some other random alien that they never come back to, even though they could. Oh, and then there's the episode with Cassandra. So they go to a planet where they're gonna see this black hole, they're going to see this black hole during an eclipse, and it's a big deal. And Jack's all into it. I dropped a pen because he actually is a big like stargazer. He loves this stuff. Again, he's not dumb. He understands a lot of this stuff. He's just faking being dumb. And yeah, again. Anyway, they get this. They realize they haven't heard back from the team that was setting up shop there, and they find out everyone's dead. They're all dead. There was some sort of a plague that killed everybody, and they're like, "What the heck happened?" Because this planet was like fine, thousands of people. Where did they go? How did this happen? And mind you, in like days. And they find one girl. They find a girl, Cassandra, and she's chill. She's fine. And they're all like, how are you fine? So they're going to take her back to Earth to like check on her, figure out what's going on. Anyways, there's some weird things happen. It turns out she's got a bomb implanted in her, but it's a bomb that's only activated by being nearby Nakoda, such as the Stargate. The whole point was actually they were supposed to take her back through the gate and then to send her back through the gate, and if they tried, she would explode upon getting close to the gate, blowing up the Stargate and anything within like a 10-mile radius or something. because the Gould implanted this in her on purpose and killed everybody there on purpose. And the Gould that did that was Nirti. Yeah, she's real into screwing with the human anatomy. Anyways, they figure out that this bomb will eventually reabsorb into Cassandra. Well, they don't figure that out. They kind of hope that happens, and then it just does. And so instead of her blowing up anyway, which they were worried would happen, she ends up being fine, because we don't kill children when they play the happy children music that they stop using post season 3. Because, except for Cassandra, it's like her theme. But you'll notice the music, because it's played through about 60% of this entire episode. Anyways, so that's Cassandra. And now she's adopted by, Dr. Fraser. And is basically Sam and her, she's like Sam's niece, basically, for the rest of the show. Anyways, then there's Korai. Teal'c goes on trial and pleads guilty. That's the episode. That happens a couple times for Teal'c, to be honest. And then there's the Tolan episode. So they go to this planet that's basically nuclear, it's in the middle of a planet-wide Pompeii. And so they find the Tolan there. They save them. They bring them to the gate. The Tolan are mad at them for saving them, and they're like, "Why are you mad at us for saving you?" And the Tolan are like, "Because now you're gonna blow your own planet up if we tell you anything about who we are, what we do, our technology." And they're like, "No." And they're like, "No, but you are, because you're dumb and stupid and childs." And they're like, "Man, you sound like the Nox." And they're like, "The Nox, you say? They can get us home." And then they're like, "Okay, cool." So then they send the Tolan back to home. Meanwhile, also, one of the Tolan falls in love with Sam. Sam falls in love with him. She gives him a cat. He names the cat Schrodinger, because they laugh about the Schrodinger's cat thing. And he laughs about it because it's some, not real science. And Sam's like, "This is, cutting edge science." And he's like, "Yeah," about that. And, anyways... But their science is on a different path than most of the science in the universe. It's very weird. The Tolan science is not the same, but they don't talk about it a lot. But the Tolan science tree is very separate. If you pay attention to how they talk about it, it is not the same type of science that the most of the rest of the universe kind of follows. I only recognize this because I've watched the show 20 times. So there's that. Oh, holy crap, there's so many important things that happen in this season. Holy crap. Then there's the episode where Sam and Jack come home. And, actually, no, Teal'c and Daniel come home. They come through the gate. Sam and Carter come back a little bit later, but there's something screwy that happens. And they get sent to what essentially is Antarctica, the planet. Spoiler alert, it's just Antarctica. And apparently there's a second Stargate on Earth. And, when you dial your own number, you get a busy signal or something. They talk about that. Again, phones. And apparently you can't have two gates at the same time. It gets screwy sometimes. And this is what happened. Basically, something interrupted the original Stargate connection. And so it jumped to the next available Stargate, which was the other Stargate on Earth. Because it's on the same planet, and so it teleported them there instead of the gate room. They almost freeze to death. They don't. They find them. Now we have a second Stargate and a DHD for the first time, because there was one there, even though it was buried under ice. Cool facts. Somehow, some way, those end up with Russia, and we won't talk about that for a while. The Tin Man episode. They go to a planet. Turns out the planet is a big factory, basically, and there's this dude, and he makes robot copies of everybody. Teal'c's robot copy doesn't really work well because it has two brains in it, with the Gould and him, and it doesn't really go well, and he becomes evil, and they have to kill it, but then he makes another copy anyway or something. Anyways, now there's robot copies of them that live on this planet with this dude and run this factory. That won't come up again later. And then we're back to the Daniel Jackson goes to another alternate reality, the review episode, and now the season finale. See, we got there. I'm trying to speed up a little bit because I'm realizing this is already an hour and 20 minutes long, and I'm not even done with season 1. So they finish. The season 1 finale is basically because the Stargate program is getting shut down because apparently they haven't done enough good things yet, or brought back enough good things yet, that the American government decides that it's a expenditure that they can't afford, which is hilarious, knowing how much the government likes to spend on things that they don't even tell us about. So, it's just funny in retrospect. So the excuse me. Anyways, so they're shutting down the program. Meanwhile, SG-1 goes rogue because they're like, screw that, we need to save the planet. And spoiler alert, they do. This show has 10 seasons. And 2 spin-offs. And 2 TV movies. Yeah. Anyways, so they go to Chulak, but then they end up inside of a ship. Because apparently they moved a gate to the ship instead of on the planet to help with, like, logistics. They were like, just to, like, make transporting boxes easier or something. So it's like, yeah, this is kind of normal when they are prepping for an invasion, and they're like, oh, okay. Actually, no, it wasn't Chulak, it was some other planet, but it was like the same story, different planet. And so they're on the ship. Apparently it's one of the 2 ships that are going to Earth, which they kind of figure out a little bit later, actually, because they don't think they're on a ship yet. They just think they're in, like, a pyramid, but they're not. They're in a ship. Anyways, they're apparently in Skara's ship, because, by the way, Skara also became a host of a Gould for Apophis. That's why we're all motivated to find these people. And he's Apophis' son, Chlorel. Big reveal, because this is like, they find this out. Meanwhile, O'Neill's like, it's Skara. Anyways, so they try to, like, get Skara on their side. There's a couple of weird things that happen. Does Daniel die in this episode? Daniel gets shot. And it's not this episode. It's actually season 2, episode 1, because basically this episode's 2 episodes. It's the end of season 1, and then it's season 2, episode 1 is the wrap up of the cliffhanger. It's basically Daniel almost dies. I'm gonna put 1/2 on the tally, because he sort of dies, and he gets shot, like, pretty bad, and he tells everybody to go on without him, and they do, because they kind of have to. And so he gets himself into a sarcophagus and ends up actually taking a gate to the Nox, I think, if I remember correctly. I think he goes to the Nox planet, and then he gets a gate. Well, no, because he doesn't, because they buried them, because the Nox were like, yeah, well, we're getting rid of our Stargate. You guys aren't coming back here. He goes somewhere, and then he goes home. From there, I forget what planet he goes to. He goes to some planet, and then he comes back. And then they blow up the ships. The ships get blown up, and Apophis does not die. He gets away with Chlorel in some other, like, smaller ship or something. Or no, they get on a gate. They get on the Stargate and get out as well. And then I think Daniel gets on the gate after them. Something like that. Anyways, so they get away. But the ships are blown up. They also think they killed Apophis, but they didn't. They think they did, but they didn't. Because Apophis is the main bad guy for first 4 seasons. So suck it. He's too much of a good bad guy to have. So he leaves. They thought they killed him, but they didn't really kill him. Daniel almost dies, but he didn't. Also, Braytak was there. Remember, we like Braytak. Somehow, Braytak does not... He, like, betrays the Gould, but he doesn't, like, leave the Gould. He goes back to Chulak and just vibes, and is still, like, a part of the, like, respected elderly military, like, veterans there. Somehow. I remember rewatching this show a couple months back, and I was thinking, I'm like, how does he get away with this? I'm like, how does he get away with it? I mean, I guess nobody's, like, I keep thinking, I'm like, how? He was on the ship. Apophis and Chlorel knew. So, how do they think he escaped? Because he didn't escape with them. So how did they think he left? Eternally mystifies me. It's a plot hole. It's a plot hole. Anyways, I'm going to stop this one. I think season 1's a good ending point for now. And maybe I'll make another one right now because I feel like it.